Good evening, friends, and welcome to one of our Purple Mountain videos. One of a series that we've been discussing reincarnation and taking questions. We'd like to welcome everybody this evening who's going to join us. We'll just give a few moments for people to come on board live. We hope everybody's keeping well and safe, and that we're all staying positive. And we'd like to just introduce everybody that will be joining us this evening. Well, there's plenty of us this evening, so we're ready for your questions on this area of reincarnation and the many different parts and facets to this knowledge. So, of course, Stephen's with me this evening. Say hello, Stephen.
Hi, everybody. I hope you're all doing all right. Looking forward to the chat.
Stephen, of course, also the Purple Mountain, and we'd like to welcome once again a friend of ours, Lewis Powell, who's a master Kambo practitioner, shaman, and teacher as well, and he'll be sharing his truths and teachings through the course of this video. And also, we will be adding a link. If anybody is interested in the work Lewis does as well, we'll add it onto the comment section, so you'll be able to follow that link. So we just want to say good evening to a few people, to Marie Marsden, who's joined us, Elizabeth, Sue Price, Marie Gibson, Angela Potts, Kenny Walker. It's a pleasure to have you all with us. We're getting up to about 20 people now, so we're going to get started. Of course, this is our third video in a series on reincarnation, and we've covered many different subjects, many different questions of the choices that you make before returning here on the earth plane, the many sort of anomalies that can happen once you return to the earth plane, cause and effect, what occurs when you return to the spirit world. We've talked in these past videos about many of these different subjects, but today we wanted to touch a little bit on ancestral loops, and as Stephen puts it sometimes, family curses and such. Okay, which might seem a bit of a heavy word to use, but don't get worried about it. Okay, so Stephen, yeah. So do you want to just, before we sort of go any further, do you want to just explain a little bit about what you mean by, when we mention that word curses, because it does frighten people a little bit, you know, but there's no need to be. So.
Yeah, I mean, I can only talk on my own experience and things that I've learned personally on my own journey, my own truths. Yeah. That sort of, since I've gotten into the spiritual movement, since I've awoken from that truth, I've learned a lot more about myself and why I'm here, what my purpose is, and since a lot of my own self-healing experiences, I've opened myself up to that truth, such as, you know, understanding my childhood and why I've chosen my particular mum and my particular dad, and why I've chosen this particular family, and actually learning more about my sort of ancestors. I sort of found that a lot of the masculine energies in our families have often taken that same path. And my great grandfather was an alcoholic, which devastated part of the family. I know a lot of, I speak very openly about it, about my family, because it's, you know, nothing to hide. It's something that I accept my past and accept myself, that a lot of those distortions has been passed on through our family anyway, and it's passed down. And I know that I've reincarnated into my family, and I know in my own truth that I know that I'm not meant to have children in this life. I'm meant to do my spiritual work. So I, in a way, have cut that loop. And I know as my stepdad got into our life and distorted more within our family, that caused a lot of upset and stuff. But I've been strong enough, I feel, to not take that road where some of my brothers and sisters, again, have continued that loop of drugs, of alcohol, and continued going down that road. And I haven't. I've taken a very different road, and I just thank my own spirit, I show much gratitude to spirit that I've been given that strength not to take that same road. So, and I know a lot of friends of mine that can relate to that as well, that also has, alcoholics in the family or drug addicts in the family that's passed down. So there's just a little bit of my own experience. I don't know if Lewis wants to add any more to that.
Well, we are the curse breakers, this generation. Like people, especially the previous generation before ours, have been just playing out, what these curses have been passed on to them, and yeah, it's happening. I was having a conversation this morning with a client about this exact thing, and how they've taken on the same traits as their parents, and they really want to stop that, for their children. and what I want to say is that when we break that cycle within ourselves, we break it from our ancestral line, and all of our ancestors and all of the ones who have passed before us, they are so grateful, because when they're in spirit, they're like, they can see all of the things that they didn't do, they can see all of the lessons that they didn't learn, and they're like, come on, egging us on. They're like, come on, you can do it.
Yeah.
Really want us to do it.
Yeah.
I had an interesting session with one of my clients today, and some of his father, who's passed, came into the session, and also his little brother, and they were just so grateful that to him that he was doing the work. They were communicating through me, and they were just so happy that he was able to to do this work and to break it. So, and when we talk about curses, they are passed through our parents, and it might have originated where it originated. It could have been from a curse, like intentional curse, where we talk about like curses in like black magic, or it could have just been a trauma, and the trauma can then create coping mechanisms and distortions around that trauma that we then don't know how to handle it, so we then pass that on to our children. So that can then be like the curse that's created. So there is a difference between a curse and an ancestral trauma that's passed on, because when we say curse, it's when we are using our intention to send negative energies or bad spirits to somebody to cause them harm. So that may have originated somewhere, like an ancestral curse may have originated from some kind of like black magician or something, or it could have just started off from like a trauma. So there is a difference there, and also there is some people that are consciously aware of what they're doing when it comes to cursing people and things like that. But most of the time, this stuff is completely in the subconscious. It's not something that if the reason that it's still there and it's still affecting generations is because the people that have been affected by it are not aware of it, and that's the first step for us to be able to overcome it, is to become aware of it.
Absolutely. I think you made that point you made at the beginning about how family members and us see us from the spirit world, almost like willing us on. And I had this conversation last night. It was actually with my mum, and she was talking about how her mum felt, and she was concerned for her in the spirit world. And I said, no, she'll be willing you on, and she'll understand you more now than she ever has. She'll see you for totally you, your life. And it really lit her up knowing that. So I think it's a really important point to get out there. Yeah, that our family members and such willing us on to break that, and that important point is it's not always purposely passed on. It might be just something that's not resolved, and it's just passed on like a pattern.
I know that spirit often say, don't they, Chris and Lewis, that spirit often have said to us that our generation, Lewis, you just said about our generation, and we have to become better versions of our ancestor. We have to break those loops. You have to use our strength, our light, to break not just family loops, but we have to talk bigger here. We can talk about country loops, or the world, its own loops. its own curses as humanity. So I don't know if you want to maybe expand on that, Lewis, a bit.
Yeah, well, in the collective field of all of our consciousness, in this reality that we're in at the moment, contains the imprints of all of our curses and all of our projections. And, you know, collectively, when like a curse can be put on an entire species, like you can see right now with this coronavirus scenario, the fear that's being pumped out. Well, it's not so as much now. It was kind of like move on to something else. But like the coronavirus fear pandemic was like everybody was terrified, everybody was under control, and everybody was aligned to this one, you know, template. So I like to see the way how like the collective consciousness holds these curses as templates, because there's lots of different templates that we can like align with or choose to follow. It's a bit like the you know, religion is a big one. Religion's like a big template that we can be stuck into that carries its own patterns and curses. You know, like especially when it comes to religion and like sinners and you know, if you've sinned, you should be punished. That's like a huge collective pattern that we a lot of us align with. A lot of us identify with that. You know, and sometimes we can, if we align with that, or some of our parents align with that, heavily ingrained in them, then we can also take on that feeling like, oh, you know, if we do something that's a sin, then we're going to be punished by the devil and things like that. You know, you know, it's like that's like a collective template, but also there is other kinds of templates. Like I like to use the example like the American dream. It's like it's been created. It's a creation that everybody can align with, and it becomes like it's an illusion that becomes something that you identify with. And it's the same with curses as well. The only reason that they carry on with us is because we identify with them. Like not always a conscious level, but it's because we identify with them as like, oh, this is how our parents were. This is how I am. You know, rather than being an individual self, because we are like, from when we come down from spirit, we're all unique and individual, and like nothing really to do with our parents. You know, everything that we learn, the learned behavior comes from our parents and from their past traumas and their experiences. So yeah, I mean, it's all about the way to heal from this kind of thing is to align with your true self. It's the only way, really, because the curses, the ancestral curses and the patterns that are coming through, they're illusions. They're not really who we are. And the only reason that they still affect us is because we identify with them. Similarly, how we can identify with these collective templates.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, you find a lot, Chris. You find a lot as well, which you've explained to us, Lewis, about some of the South American tribes, the Native American tribes who've had a lot of trauma, are holding on to that ancestral hurt and have turned it quite negative, haven't they? And they're holding that. And I found that on my last ayahuasca with some of the Jewish community, and so it's a lot of sort of people that have been hurt. They've carried that trauma within a village or city, and they're holding on to it, and that creates its own fear and negativity as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, the problem is with cultures like that as well is that they know how to conjure up these and illusionary. When I say illusion, because that's what they are. They're just productions of our own trauma that they work, you know, sorcerers work with, and they know how to use that pain and suffering to conjure up to cause harm to people. You know, there's the contrast of like our parents doing that to us on an unconscious level, but in some tribes and cultures around the world, there's people that are using these energies consciously. So they're stuck in, but that's only because of their own trauma that they're aligning with. So there's this whole distortion around some cultures of like the black magic, which is all pretty much just stemmed from trauma and the creations, that the distortion, the illusions that are created from that trauma, and they're using that, conjuring it up to actually cause harm to people. So that keeps them kind of stuck in like this karmic loop as well.
Do you think they see it as a way of because of the hurt, almost protecting themselves in a way of it happening again in a strange way?
I think it's like a survival. But it is a survival thing that, you know, it's but they also use it for, they get, you know, some people within tribal communities get paid to do it. So it's kind of like a job. So it's like, that's also a survival thing. It's like, okay, if someone's paying me to put this stuff on somebody else, and, you know, it's going to make them suffer for a bit, and I get some more power and money from it, then, you know, then it becomes, they attract more of it in then, and before they know it, they're full-blown black magicians, you know, working for these illusionary forces.
Absolutely.
But they don't realize, people don't realize as well, that when we look about karma, you'll only give what you get back, you know, and it's almost like, even with these scenarios, people that are holding on to that ancestral hurt, they're fueling the hurt, and it gets bigger and worse, and really, you know, the universe knows this, and it's just going to fuel, and that karma is not going to bring back positive things. It's going to bring back more hurt and more trauma.
Yeah. When they use the term selling your soul to the devil, if you're doing that kind of thing, then that's what's going to happen to you. You know, you can conjure it all up, and you can give it out, and you might feel temporarily better, and you might get some temporary profit or gain from that, but it's going to come back tenfold.
Yeah, I used to compare it with some people years ago that I've sort of encountered, of like throwing a ball against the wall, and the ball comes back and hits them in the face. And then so they decide to grab the ball and throw it even harder, and then it hits them in the face even harder. So they just carry on doing it, you know, and they're getting more annoyed with each shot. Yeah, like a loop in itself. So we've got a question here, so we're going to get them started if everybody's ready. It's from Angela Potts. So I'll put it up on the screen. And the question is, hi guys, if you've had a traumatic death in a past life, can it affect this life now? So I don't know if
Lewis can answer that if you want to.
Yeah.
The answer to that is yes, it can. Sometimes we have to heal that trauma as well in this life. If you've had a traumatic death in a past life, then that can affect you. And I know this to be true because I've done work with people, soul retrieval work before, where there's been a trauma there in that person's energy field, and it has been from a previous lifetime. So yeah, the answer is yes.
I mean, Chris, you can talk a bit about personal experience there, because I know that you've got a huge fear of water, haven't you? So you know that somewhere that you've had a bit of a traumatic death there, and you don't like things, the suffocating feeling, and you don't like water much, do you?
Yeah, I've had to sort of overcome that a bit, and I don't like the feeling of water going up my nose or anything like that. And I do feel that I went that way in a past life, so that's been carried through.
What kind of advisement could you sort of give, Lewis, for people that know about a traumatic death in their past life? What advisement would you give people to try to overcome that?
Well, there's certain therapies that can be done to help you to go into that. Soul retrievals can be a really helpful tool to deal with that. But the problem is that you would deal with a trauma from a past life exactly the same as you deal with a trauma from this life. It can still have exactly the same effects on you by the way that we create more layers on top of that. So it can actually become something that creates a bigger problem in this life as well. So the best advice would be, you know, maybe try and find someone, a therapist that can take you through into this to help to release it from the core. Yeah, I mean, that personally, that's what my advice would be to do, is to reach out to someone that knows how to do this work, or just to observe. Yeah. To be fair, actually, there is ways that you can do that yourself, and that would just to observe certain patterns that if you believe that, you know, that's the case. One thing I don't like to advise people to do is go too much into past lives. Don't, because we've had many past lives.
Big on that, yeah.
Had many
very
past
much
lives.
so.
And the thing is with shadow work is, if you're not in a really good place and you're not in a really good, strong place, then going into shadow work can create more illusions and more distortion. So, Yeah, I don't really advise delving too deep into past lives. Focus on this life and focus on what you want to be in this life, and focusing on your path and these kind of things when they're ready and you're going through it, when you're in your true self and your own energy. All of the old traumas and things like that haven't been processed will come to the surface eventually, and you just deal with it one by one. That would be my best advice, not to go too deeply into the shadows, because it's like a bottomless pit.
That, you know, that's so spot on. It's something I feel so strongly about, because I've witnessed a lot of people ask questions about past lives over the years, and it's sort of become a thing of mine where I've seen it, the destructive side of it, where they've asked and asked and asked, and they've chased it until they've got the information, and the information hasn't served them at all. In some cases, I've seen it feed the problem or trauma even more.
Yeah.
So it's that case of be careful what you ask for, and I really feel that if there's something that is going to serve your spirit or you need on your path, it will naturally come up when you're ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it can bring a lot of complications sometimes, delving into past lives.
Yeah,
a lot that we've seen. Yeah.
I think we'll have all that information when we pass. We'll have all that clarity then. If we were meant to know about it now, I'm sure we would.
Oh, I'm such a firm believer that you're spot on there, Lewis. That's yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we actually in a circle we sat in a long time ago, and there was a couple of people within that circle that, through meditation and such, they must have been seeking it, found that they were related in a past life, and because it was kind of pushed and pushed, it kind of divided the circle a little bit, like we're brother and sister, and it caused a bit of a split because they got so enticed by that information, if that makes sense, of a past life. So sometimes delving too much, I'm a big believer in that myself. Should we move on? I think Angela's got another question, just a bit of a follow-up one. Should I put that up as well?
Yes.
And the next question is, what's the difference between good karma and bad karma? Is that a daft question? And the answer to your last bit is, Angela, there's no daft questions. The only silly question's the one you don't ask, so don't worry. So, is anybody's thoughts on good karma and bad karma?
Yeah, well, the thing is, karma is just a cosmic law. So there is no good karma and bad karma, because the thing is, karma is just the universe responding to the energy that we're holding inside of us. So if we have experienced trauma as a victim, we become a victim to some trauma, and we're still holding on to that victim trauma, then we will still attract just as much bad situations into our lives as we would if we were the person that committed the problem, was the perpetrator of the problem. So what I'll say is that there is no good karma or bad karma, because if you get into this whole good karma, bad karma situation, then you'll end up like in this me and you victim persecutor sort of paradigm, which actually it. So if you are in, don't get me wrong, if you do good things, if you act from your heart and you do good things, it will clear away this energy that's in us. So you can pay off karma, so to speak, but it's not because you've been a bad person and then you have to repay that by being good. No, it's not. You could have been a really good person your whole life and had lots of things happen to you that are really bad.
Yeah.
But you still heal it the same way by just being a good person anyway, and just not identifying so much with the trauma. It's like it's identifying with this energy that we have inside of us, which could be classed as karma. It's so misunderstood, that word karma. I don't really like to use it too much, because people do always like this, this question comes up, good karma, bad karma, and like how, it's just like a punishment. I don't want it to seem as like a punishment, because it's not. It's just the universe is not punishing us. It's completely neutral. It's just responding to whatever energy it is that we're holding. So the answer to that is there is no difference. It's a neutral force.
Okay. So anything you want to add, Stephen?
Yeah, I mean, I totally 100% agree with what Lewis says. And that's why I don't believe, there is no, in life, we're here on this earth to experience. And it is in those experiences of life that experiences teaches our spirit to grow and evolve. And that's why I don't believe spirit have always sort of instilled in us there's not such thing as a good path or bad path or good path. Everything teaches the spirit. So why should we see its punishment? When we stumble, when we fall, that's how we grow. So why should we see that as a bad thing? Everything's teaching us all the time. Everything's helping us to grow. And Lewis is right. I don't really like using the word karma, and people perceive it as, you've got to repay your karma. And it's almost this perception, well, I'm repaying the karma for you, and you can't do that. And I see karma more like this universal force to rebalance those energies that we admit, good or fear-based. And it's just very simple, I think. And that's just my opinion.
It is simple, actually. It is really. So if when you think about it, it's quite simple the way that it works. But so many people, the biggest distortion is the victim mentality. Is holding on and because when we are blaming somebody else for our problems, what we're not realizing is that that's deepening the schism, that wound within us. When we blame somebody else, it creates more of it, and then when we focus on that, we get more of it. So it's and the thing is with if we are on the opposite side of it, where we're projecting that outwards because we don't want to deal. So it's not like, rather than like being a victim projecting that out, we're being a persecutor, and we're like punishing people or hurting people because we're hurt inside. Well, eventually, that projection that we put out will come back to us, and it will cause us more pain and more. So it's like, it's like if we're not able to disidentify with it, if we're not able to detach from it, then it will become bigger. And then worse situations will be attracted into our life. So it just works like that. It's quite simple.
I just want to add there as well, Lewis, and to Chris, that I mean, we do a lot of readings, and I find, I mean, I'm not opening it up to some things are private, but I know I've dealt with a lot of clients that keep choosing the same relationship. I said, I keep choosing the same partner, and it's almost like they're blaming the partner. And I said, you are choosing them.
Yeah.
You are your mind's that you are creating and choosing that person. Until you work on yourself, you keep choosing that wrong person. You have to break that cycle. So it starts within you,
Yeah. And so sometimes it's that strong within us that we are attracted to that person, and we just can't help it. And sometimes like that, you could see that as like karma, like we have to go through that to be able to see the lesson. So it's like, it's a neutral thing, really, even though it'll attract us into that situation. It's like the universe going, here you go, here's another situation that's going to cause you pain. Now, can you see it?
Yeah, that is so true, because it's like I was explaining to a friend of ours last night. So I've seen it. They bring this lesson, and then if I'm not paying attention, it's going to get back another way, and it's going to keep coming and coming until it's so obvious and blinding that, are you going to see this? But just picking up on what you both said about karma, I completely agree. I think it's something that's really overused, that word, and I think it can actually entice people into doing things so they get good karma. So you're not actually doing things for the correct reason. You're doing it, I'm going to do this because I'll get good karma. Which isn't a good reason for doing anything. It's just be the best version of yourself. And
you see a lot of that on Facebook, don't you? Look, and I'm not judging, look what I've done for charity, and it's the feeding the ego. And I think if the intention's not there, that good energy is not generated. It's coming from the wrong place.
Yeah. It can also become like an addiction as well. It can become unhealthy. It's like anything, though. Anything that gives us a temporary fix to the ego will always leave us with a void.
Yeah, I think that's a good point as well. That temporary fix, isn't it? Instead of that, being in that long lasting feeling, which to me would be more right, if that makes sense.
We spoke about it the other day, didn't we? About like the unconditional giving, that like we actually have unlimited amounts of love and energy to share. Like the cosmic energy that we are all connected with, our spirit is absolutely infinite. We don't need to get anything from anybody else. We have got access to everything that we need to have access to.
So true.
Yeah, I think that's true, and it's really good for everybody to hear that as well who's watching. Okay, so we'll move on to the next question, which is from Marie Marsden. And it says, so holding on to trauma beliefs can cause illness in the bodies. And if it's all right with Lewis and Stephen, I'd just like to add something to this before we answer it. I had an experience this weekend, quite a strong sort of process during the ceremony. And it was from a trauma that had been built up in my sort of solar plexus that I must have sort of fed in a way, and I've kept feeding it. And I'd had problems sort of the last 12 months or so with bloatedness in my stomach. And I've done all sorts of dietary to try and sort it. But this realization now is that it wasn't all down to what I was eating. It was this hurt that I'm holding and been adding to, and I'm very fortunate through that process. I was able to release it over the weekend, and the benefits I've found have been unbelievable. And actually, the first person I saw who wasn't part of that weekend said to me, "Your stomach don't look as big. It looks like it's gone. Something's gone." And that to me was just showing, oh yeah, it is gone. I feel clear now. So in answer to that, I certainly say yes. But I don't know if anybody else wants to add anything to that. I just wanted to add that experience I had over the weekend.
Yeah. So the answer to that is big yes. I'd like to explain a little bit about how that happens. So like how trauma and beliefs can cause illness. So like I just want you to imagine that if you're when you're a child, we're so pure. Our energy channels, naturally our energy channels are just flowing constantly of pure light, pure cosmic energy, constantly healing our body all of the time. And then when we're exposed to trauma, that creates a distortion within our energy field. And then what happens is then that trauma stores somewhere in the body, and then we create more layers of distortion around that trauma, like distorted belief systems around, maybe the trauma could have been something as simple as not feeling wanted or not feeling good enough to do something. It could have started off as something as simple as that. You could have been a child and then your parents told you that you were useless or something, and then you believed it, and then you felt really bad about that, and you felt really guilty, and then you have more and more layers to that. Then that belief then becomes an energy in your being, and then that energy in your being creates blockages that then stop the natural healing energy running through us. So that can then create like a negatively charged energy, which is fed by illusionary beliefs, and like the trauma. Usually the illusionary beliefs are like, I am not good enough or something like that. And as soon as that part of you realized, okay, yeah, I am good enough, this is nonsense, somebody just told me this when I was younger, and if you knew the truth behind it, then you heal it. I love this term, the truth will set you free, because it does. If your traumas knew the truth, the absolute truth, then they would heal straight away. But what happens is that over time we create more illusions and more beliefs, and then what happens is, because of that negatively charged energy or karma, like we were talking about before, becomes a charge in your body, then you start attracting more of the same thing. And then the mind will lead you into that situation, and then it'll confirm it, and then that trauma or that problem, that energy, that distorted energy gets stronger and stronger, and then it attracts more and more negative energies from other people and places, and then over time that can build up and then actually manifest as a physical illness. Now, I wanted to share a little bit about a problem that I had, how I managed to heal myself, because I started off from a young age of having like heartburn and acid reflux, and I was taking medication for like 15 years. Some of you have probably heard of it before. It's lansoprazole. It stops the acid production. Yeah. But then over time, what happened was I wasn't digesting my food properly over years because I had no stomach acid, and then I was getting problems in my colon. And then I ended up with a condition called ulcerative colitis. So I had all this issue in my colon, and it was causing me all kinds of problems. I couldn't eat loads. There was lots of different foods that I couldn't eat because it was flaring this problem, this illness. It was flaring it up. And I was obviously thinking, this is due to the food that I'm eating. I need to change the food that I'm eating. This is why. Yeah. And then I was going through this whole process of trying all these different diets, and like some of it would work, and then when I'd like make a mistake on the diet, I'd end up back in the same cycles again, and I'd end up suffering again. It wasn't until I did try lots of different healing methods, and some of it was really helpful, but it wasn't until I did some work with mushrooms, and I asked the mushrooms, the plant, I asked it, what is this problem? I was just in that much pain with it. I was like, what is this? How do I heal it? And the words came up, guilt. It was like just bold font, like in my vision was just guilt. And then straight away I could feel it all, like the guilt in my stomach just riddled. My whole stomach was just filled with guilt. And then I just felt it all like starting to ease off. And then but there was a lot of it, it took me, it wasn't just like an instant fix. But then I realized that what I'd been doing my whole life is I believed that I was doing something wrong when I'd make a mistake and then I'd done something wrong. And this ties into this whole collective pattern around punishment and feeling like you're doing something wrong. But I know exactly where that came from. And I'm still working through that now, but it was actually manifesting as a really, quite a terrible illness in my body. So then what I did is, because of the food situation, that was kind of like the main thing that was causing the problem at the time, was like this, the belief around the food. That became the primary thing that I was focused on, was just this obsession with food and supplements I was taking. So I decided from that day on that I was going to get rid of all of my supplements and I was going to eat whatever the hell I wanted to eat. I thought, I'm just going to do whatever I want to do. I'm going to eat what I want to eat. And then I'll see how I get on. And it was from then on, I was able to eat whatever I wanted to eat. And then my problem started to heal. And then I did try and then I noticed that the dis-ease in my body was gone, but I was still like ulcerated. But the actual dis-ease that I was feeling that was causing the problem was gone. So then I was able to like use, like colonics and hydrotherapy, and I was using like probiotics and things like that, because I knew that that's what I needed to replenish all that. But it was actually that trauma and that belief system that I was doing something wrong, and the pattern around it was in the present moment, well, in the not so this past, I was eating foods that I should be eating, apparently, I was eating foods that I should be eating, and then I'd make one little slip up and then it'd flare up. But it was nothing to do with the food. It was the fact that I made a mistake and I was punishing myself, and then I'd feel guilty. So that was the pattern around it that was causing the disease. So then I was able to then heal that, and now my stomach conditions and all of them, I can eat whatever I want to eat, and I don't get any problems whatsoever. I'm not on any medication. So I completely healed that illness that I had through tackling the trauma and the pattern, the belief system that was around it. So the answer to Marie's question is yes. I believe that all illness in the body is caused by some kind of trauma.
Yeah, I think I'm exactly the same, and I think if we could really become aware of that worldwide more and more, we could really start tackling things that are overtaking the world. Really so. Okay. Is there anything you want to add? Sorry, Lewis.
One more little thing actually to it.
Yeah,
it's like a little thing around food causing diseases and smoking causing diseases. Actually, it's the relationship to the substance that causes the disease. The dis-ease starts by the dis-ease within our body. It's like if we're smoking cigarettes to feed or to numb a dis-ease that we have got in our body, then that dis-ease will grow into a physical disease. Okay, if you can safely pick up a cigarette anytime that you want to pick up a cigarette and smoke it just because you want to, and you're not feeding a disease, you won't get ill from it. You know, it's not good. It's not, you know, it's not ideal. You know, there's tar and there's chemical substances in it, but it's actually the trauma and the spiritual root cause of it that causes the disease. This is my theory behind it. You know, I'm not making claims, but this is what I believe. This is my theory on that. And the same with food as well, is that if we are overindulging and we're feeding a disease, because if we're in peace within ourselves, we won't overeat. It's not, we need to stop blaming the food and blaming the cigarettes or blaming the alcohol. They're just substances that are there. It's our relationship that we have to it that causes the problem.
Yeah, they say, I mean, you can get addicted to anything when it comes down to it. You allow yourself to.
I'd like to mention something there, Chris, as well. I mean,
absolutely.
We've done a lot of this. We've done a lot of this within Mahana Healing, that our relationship with food and spirit don't see food. We eat energy. And if you look at on the science side, your body is made of energy and is vibrating. And we know that there's lower frequency foods feed that disease. And why are we attracted to certain foods like alcohol, drugs, that feeds that low vibration within that blockage within the body? You know, it's just so simple, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. You can ask your body as well. You can ask your body what is the. Do you know what? There's a brilliant therapy that you can use. I don't know if you've heard of bioresonance before. Have you heard of bioresonance?
Oh, have you heard?
Bioresonance therapy. There's this machine, and it kind of like tunes into your energy, and your energy, your energy responds by a resonance frequency when you're asked certain questions about certain things that your body likes. So you can find out your intolerances by using this like machine that they attach to you, and then you can ask you questions. And just by asking you the questions, it knows whether your body is like kind of like asking for something. Like if you say, "Oh, do you like milk?" And then, you know, or lactose, things like that. And they can put little samples in these pots, and then they can send that frequency of that food sample into your body, and then your body will respond by saying yes or no. So it's like technology.
Yeah.
I'd advise anybody to look into it if they've got like intolerances.
Amazing stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, so we'll move on to our next question, and I'll let you read this one, Stephen, because it's from your brother. It's from Sam. So.
It says, I believe that when you see the light at the end of the tunnel, when you die, is the light you see as you are reborn. So do you want to answer that, Lewis?
No, it's not. You know, we go through a period of purification before we're even considered being reborn again. We go to the astral plane, and we're met with our guides, and we have reviews on our life, and we might not even be reborn. It could be. We might decide to stay in the astral as a guide for somebody, or yeah. No, it's not just as you're being reborn. I don't know. Maybe if you see light when you're being born, spirit. I couldn't answer, but it's when we see the light. That's where we're going to. It's our home.
Our true home, the spirit world or the astral. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely, it's that importance of everything's free will. You know, we pass to the spirit world, and we have that period, like Lewis said, that time when we possibly look at things from this life we've led and meet up with our guides, loved ones, teachers, and whether we are drawn to come back to the earth plane or not is totally our free will. It's whatever we wish to do, really, or stay and progress or travel within the spirit world.
Yeah. Well, also it's all about growth, and if we have a certain divine plan that that requires more growth, more learning in this realm, then we'll come back and we'll do that willingly, because we just when we're spirit and we're in the astral plane, we know our purpose and our path, and we know
what it is. Yeah, we do.
Yeah. There's so many people we talk to, and it's a little bit of a joke when they say, I'm not coming back next time. And I say, well, that's what you think here, but I'm sure it's different when you're just in your pure light and in your pure intention. Which, you know, still got that strong will. Okay. Is there anything you want to add, Stephen?
No, I think it's just
quite happy with that.
Yeah.
We've got another question here. It's quite a big one. This is from Joanna Cox, and it says, many people say you go to a better place when you pass. If this is true, which hopefully it is, why would you want to return or reincarnate? Okay. So, who would like to go first? Anybody want to?
Well, we kind of did expand on that a little bit just before this question came up. Yeah, we could say it's a better place because it's free. You know, when we're in the astral plane, it's free from distortion. So it's a pure sterile environment where we're not exposed to the energies that we're exposed to in this lower vibrational existence. So, yeah, we could say it's a better place, but at the same time, the best growth is in shit. we grow a lot more when we're in this world.
Yeah, that's
we grow, we learn in this environment a lot. We learn a lot from this experience.
Exactly, and I think that it was almost similar to what we were talking about when some people might say, I'm not coming back next time, but it's totally different. It's totally different the way you might see it once you're not in the physical.
I think what's important as well, what thing I've really learned over these past few 12 months, 16 months, I've always felt in personally, I'm on the earth plane for a reason and for a purpose. And over these past 12 months, since I've done a lot of self-healing, I've understood my purpose more. And I think when you can teach people and when people can really accept why they are here, I don't think they would ever say, why would you reincarnate and would not reincarnate? Because I think, in me personally, I know that as a collective, I've come back to the earth to do healing work, to help the earth. And like what Luz was saying, going through that crap, going through those difficult times is worth it because it helps your spirit to grow, but you're also growing for the collective consciousness. You're helping the earth. You're helping lifting the vibrations of the earth. So me personally, there's a lot of us that do the spiritual work that sort of really know why we are here to bring that peace, love, and harmony to the earth. Me personally, anyway.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Stephen. And just personally, some of the experiences I've had when you come through doing some hard work or hard lessons that you faced, and it might be really tough and you want to give up and all this, but when you come through it, the overwhelming feeling of bliss is just immeasurable. And that, I feel that's because you're coming closer to the true you, your true self, and standing in your light. And that's it's worth it in a way. Well, it is worth it, 100%.
Yeah, it's a beautiful experience.
Yeah, it really is.
We're in a beautiful mysterious creation. All of it, all of the experiences. We were speaking about this the other day, weren't we? It's like everything that we go through is all a beautiful experience. Even the we're here to experience the full range of the dualistic reality that we're in. So sometimes we've probably all been through experiences where we've had absolutely blissful lives on this plane, and we've also probably experienced absolute hell. But all of it is part of the experience that we're in right now. So it's to become whole and to become enlightened, so to speak, we have to be able to have experienced all of it. I mean, to integrate all of that. But yeah, the purpose is, why we're coming here, and this time is because we're coming out of a thousands of years of dark ages, and and then now we're coming to bring the light, because we are the light bringers to the earth as well. The ones that are doing this work, we're shining the light of the astral into this reality, so that can then feed the earth, because the earth's kind of forgotten now because of all of the the thick layers and webs of the matrix illusion. The earth's almost forgotten what it's like to be an astral being, which she is. She's a creator, a god. But she's just become so disconnected because of the fogs that are around in us, because we're all a part of the earth as well. So like the distortions that we're carrying, the fog that we're carrying is the fog for the earth as well. So by us doing this work, we are here to create a better place on earth. So the question, many people say, you go to a better place when you pass. Yeah, but it's possible for the better place to be here.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the work
in a way, there's no escape from the lessons you've got to learn and your experiences you've got to go through. Okay, so should we go on to another question? This is just a follow-up from Angela's question before, and she wants to ask Lewis, when he mentions about, when we talked about the disease, for example, does this, can I ask, is this the same, for example, with arthritis and cancer?
Needs to be careful here.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just say that it's just my personal belief that because obviously some people are born with with cancer, and I can't say that it's because they've experienced trauma when they've only just been born, but it could be a genetic thing. When you say genetics, it could be something that's been passed from our parents, and it's just so it doesn't necessarily have to mean that there's been a specific trauma, but there is some root. There's a root of something in that person's being that has manifested as an illness. So yeah, you don't catch cancer from something external. It's something that your body creates when there is disease in the body somewhere. So I would say that the answer to that would be, from my opinion, yes.
Okay, excellent. Anything you want to add, Stephen?
No, just going back to what I was saying before, really, about what we call the emotional body. You are a spirit within the physical body, if you will, and the emotional body is the way that spirit expresses itself. The spirit is so powerful. We know how powerful your thoughts can be. We know what happens when you're nervous. You get palpitations. We know how powerful the emotional body can be, both positive and negative. So I feel with disease, cancer and arthritis, it's a manifestation of emotions that have not been dealt with. They're trapped, blocked in the physical body, and they can grow. And we feed that, and it can grow and spread. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, so we're going to move on to our next question. This is quite a big one, this. I'll just keep it up for the moment. It's from Shah, so we want to say hi to Shah. And the question is, if I were in spirit and wanted to connect with a guide, a loved one, would they have to be open to it and me? I know they have free will and I wouldn't be able to interfere, but would I be able to gently guide them and keep them safe even if they aren't fully open to me? Has everybody read that one? I don't. Who wants to? Anybody want to comment on that?
Can you pop it back up again?
Yeah, of course I can. Sorry.
I think she's meaning if she was the guide in spirit and she's guiding somebody on the physical. Is that what she's saying?
If I were a guide, oh yes, I would go with that. We're going to go with this, Shah. If we've got it wrong, the way you're asking the question, just comment below. But I think that's where she's going.
I understand.
Yeah, are we okay, guys? So I'll take it down.
So okay. The answer would be yes. You could get the thing is, the person does have to be open to it. But you can, as a guide, you can give people subtle signs and little messages, and then sometimes they will pick up on that, and that's how guides work. So yeah.
Yeah, I think
Margaret, I just mentioned something there very quickly. I think I found me personally, on a personal experience, I found particularly recently, where Lewis was talking about that sense of unworthy, that punishment as a child, and you can hold that into your auric field, that sometimes that can block. Our own trauma and our own pain can block that spiritual communication as well, can't it? I don't know if anybody wants to ask what I think.
Yeah, it's been a lot of our friends have asked questions on these videos saying, how can I connect with my guide? Why did my loved ones not come close? And most probable, the answer 9 times out of 10 for me is they are there already. It's just we have those blocks, those walls up around us that that are stopping us linking to them or feeling them around. I remember many years ago, a friend of mine saying you would feel it if your guide sort of left you. You would feel it. You would feel the difference. You're so accustomed to that love being around you that you would notice it more if it was gone. And I always think that was a very relevant point. But I think the name guide is actually one that's very relevant because they are there to guide you, not to give you the answers, not to go right there and this is what you need to do, but just gently to give you those directions to where you might learn those lessons, and they will know you as well as anyone as well. Yeah. So does anybody want to add anything to it?
No, I'm all right.
Are we okay with that?
Yeah, sometimes guides, different guides come at different parts of your life as well. Sometimes like some will come to help you through. Sometimes there's like guides like saints and guides that like come around when you go through transitional periods in your life that will help you to get through initiations. And I know that when I was going through my shamanic initiation, I had a guide with me called Ezekiel. And I'd never heard of, I've never researched guides, it's not like something I've just, imagined, read in a book. This was a guide that was helping me through a really difficult time. And then it's not with me anymore, that guide. And now there's this other guide that's with me, like this big, like Egyptian-like being that I've been with before in previous lifetimes, and that's here now to help me deal with a really deep distortion in my being that I've been struggling to deal with, and I know that that's come here to help me to deal with that. So different guides can come at different parts of your life as well, and yeah,
I think that's really relevant. As sort of we progress and we go through different stages of life, there will be different guides, inspirers there to sort of help us along our way. I remember just a very small example when I started doing some mediumship demonstrations, and I felt very fortunate. I had somebody working with me who's actually called Maxwell, and he used to just put a little bit of a light over the person's head that I was going to, just to show me where I was going next. And just this little flicker I'd see, and then I'd go over. But he didn't stay around me forever, if that makes sense. So I must have just needed that little bit of assistance in confidence or whatever. And he helped me along, and then, went on his way after that. Very grateful for him. But it's just a good example of how we're helped all the time in different stages, and certainly in spiritual development. I feel that's really relevant as well. I know you're experiencing something quite relevant with that at the minute, Stephen, as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's great responsibility, and you sometimes feel overwhelmed, but I think you just got to accept the light. You are light, you are worthy. You're worthy as anybody else, and spirit don't see them as them up there and we down here. It's a friendship. We were all learning and helping and guiding each other. As much as your guides are there to assist you, they're learning through you as well. They're learning things as well. It's a partnership. you know. So
yeah, absolutely. So should we move on to our next question, which again is from Shah. And this question is, what can I do to help keep my children's lights bright?
Encourage
So,
them.
well, I can't talk about experience. I don't have children. Lewis, do you want to answer that?
yeah.
Encourage them to be exactly who they would like to be. Encourage them to explore their all unique, different gifts and talents. That's what I would say. Encourage that. Don't suppress their creativity. Allow them to express themselves. Yeah, I mean, any kind of suppression is going to dim the light. So, just letting them express themselves. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and I think that allowing them to make their choices as well. I know something that I've been very aware of lately, and I actually had a conversation with my mum and dad the other day about showing a bit of gratitude for allowing them to, saying they allowed me sort of freely to make choices in my life, whether that's good or bad for me, and just let me walk my path. And I think that's really important, because if it can go either way, and not just holding us back from good things, but sometimes holding us back from making mistakes, because we've got to make those mistakes and we've got to learn.
Yeah, that's true. It's trying to find that healthy balance between keeping our children safe and allowing them to have experiences that are going to help them to learn at the same time. So, yeah, but I think to keep the lights bright definitely would be to allow them to express them, creative expression, and encouraging them to, and encouraging and empowering their own unique gifts and abilities.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to add there as well. I think from a personal experience, I think as we were all being children growing up in our own way, and I think if being our own authentic self, being an individual, because we lose ourselves, don't we, growing up, and we're molded and woven and interwoven and programmed by our parents, by our teachers and peers, and we lose our authentic self. And I think, yeah.
Okay, so we'll go on to the next question. This question is from Michelle North, and she's asking, I always thought that children with devastating illnesses are very beautiful souls that have agreed to help teach the parents something. What do you think? I don't know who'd like to go first on this one.
Stephen?
Yeah.
Do you want to go?
Well, I know sort of my own truth. I believe I've Down syndrome children, for example. I know that a lot of Down syndrome children have very, very bright spirits. They're very loving and very caring. Not all, but very loving, caring. I know that certain physical vessels want, I'm talking about once the fetus, being in the mother's womb. I know that sometimes certain spirits who make plans in that reincarnation won't take on that physical body because the physical body is broken or distorted. So, it's not an easy one to really answer. I think we're always learning from each other, but I think sometimes in certain ways it's cause and effect. Sometimes the physical body is broken. Sometimes it's the DNA is fractured. Sometimes that's what happens. It's life, isn't it? So it's hard to put it down in one scenario. I don't know what Lewis's thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I agree with you, Stephen, on this one. I really do like the concept that she says that, and I have noticed actually that that people that have very short lifespans as children, they are very beautiful souls, but it could, she very well could be in some circumstances what she's saying. It very well could be, but there is also like anomalies, in like the creation process. Not everything is always exactly perfect. I think the closer to the source that we are, the more perfect things are. But I think the lower the vibration we get, things kind of sometimes can get a little bit, like all the distortion that we've got on this earth. There can be problems, issues, I think, that can arise, that are tragic. I wouldn't like to answer and say that all that all children that spirits that reincarnate as children with illnesses are there to teach the parents something. I wouldn't like to say, maybe in some situations, possibly.
I agree with you there, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to add anything there, Craig?
I think this is a bit above and beyond our knowledge on this. Could be.
That's why we're struggling to really understand it ourselves. So I think some more healing sessions on that to get some more answers.
Yeah, we're all still learning ourselves. We're just sharing the best we can. But I just want to echo the thoughts of what Stephen and Lewis has said. Certainly I've experienced a lot of children with suffering with illnesses or disease that they are really beautiful souls quite often, certainly with the more debilitating problems, and actually when you look into their eyes and that, they can really light you up. You feel the unconditional love. You really can. Okay, so it's something for us to think about with that one that we're going to take away as well. So thanks to that, Michelle. We're all learning together. So we're going to go on to our next question. It's from Joanne Cox. Good evening, Joanne. And her question is, I know lots of people who go through life carefree, with good health, good jobs, etc. Others suffer so much, it seems so unfair. Is it because they have more lessons to learn? So,
do you want me to go with that one?
Yeah, if that's all right.
So, some people have to go through really challenging lives, really, and experience a lot of suffering because they have a certain role that they need to fulfill in this life. Some people need to go through challenges if they need to work if you're going to work as a healer, you have to go through many challenges and many trials. Some people do go through life carefree, which is just their experience that they're going through in this life, and maybe the purpose that they have is to just experience what life's like to be like that. And I think maybe some people need to learn more lessons. Yeah, like I said, sometimes it could be more lessons, or it could be a certain role that people need to fulfill, and sometimes it means reincarnating into a difficult upbringing.
Is there anything you want to add, Stephen, on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be quite blunt, really, with the answer. Is we shouldn't stop reacting as society. We should stop reacting. What's good, what's bad, things. Life's unfair. Life is fair in every way. Every experience is good. Everything that we do, we're learning. It's our reaction to it, our pessimism, our negativity, our own fear that mirrors that perception, that unfairness, and I'm having it tough, and sometimes we end up playing that victim. Why is this happening to me? And I think we should view things as things positively and show gratitude. And that's something I've really learned over the past 2 years. Show gratitude. And then once you accept that, you don't react to things. You say, thank you, universe. Everything that happens is for a reason. We are learning. So life isn't unfair. Life is fair. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Smile through it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so important, because when things go wrong, it's so easy to have that reaction, and you use that word, Stephen, and that's the word, and it react and to sink and go, oh my God, everything's going wrong, nothing's going right for me. And once you get into that victim role, it's almost like you're bringing more of it in a way. It'll just keep coming.
Yeah, it becomes the drama. The world that you're experiencing becomes the drama that you're creating through your perception of the world. So if you're perceiving the world as unfair, then the world will be to you very unfair. If you perceive the world fair, then the world will become a fair place for you.
Absolutely. I think that's a very good point. So I hope that's answered your question, Joanne. We're going to see what else we have. This is a good question I just spotted. We'll go for this. It's Marie Marsden, and she's asking, where does a soul generate from in the first instance? And I know somebody asked this the other night, and it's like, whoa, here we go. So I don't know what your thoughts are, Lewis, on this one.
Well, if she'd asked me the question, where does the source generate from in the first instance, then I probably wouldn't be able to give you the answer. But I would say that the soul generates from the source of our creation.
Yeah.
From my understanding of it is that it's a part of the creator experience in itself. We're all different. We're all connected. We're all souls that are just an extension of the source.
Yeah, really well put. Stephen, you want to add anything?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think certain things are beyond our physical comprehension. I think where does our soul generate? If we're all creators, we're all part of the consciousness, the web, the web that binds us. Then we all belong to that one source. So we all belong to that one source of light.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting that a lot of people have asked this question during the course of these videos. Yeah, and I think that the most level answers have been given, because a lot of things are beyond our comprehension and how we sort of envisage them in a way. Okay, so we've got, I think this one's just a comment from Sue Price. Just picked up on what Stephen said. Do you want to just read that one, Stephen?
Just be grateful for all the small things we have. My motto is always look at the bright side of life. Well, absolutely. Look on the bright side of life.
Well, Marie's got a follow-up question here. So hold on to your hats. Here we go. Where does the source begin from then? We're digging deep.
The great mystery. That's how it's known as in the Native American traditions, and they call it the great mystery. Wakantanka. It's the mystery. That's what we have to accept. That it is an infinite, mysterious source that even the highest beings can't comprehend.
I think that's absolutely right. Absolutely. Stephen,
leave it to the gods.
Yeah. So I hope that's helped. Yeah, absolutely.
I mentioned that, Chris, there's a couple of people, when we were talking before, Joanna and Michelle said they're not sure I agree, not with the soul question, but when we were talking a moment ago about when bad things happen to you, and I think she says, oh, I don't agree. And I think you just find your truth. A lot of our stuff that we discuss on here is just our truths, what we've experienced in life. So our job's not to dictate to people, is to try to inspire people to find their own truth. So in a way, it's not about being right or wrong. People can agree and disagree. That's the beauty of conversation, the beauty of the platform. Absolutely.
I think that's something that's so important. Never apologize for not agreeing with something. Stay true to yourself, and anything we've said tonight, feel free, go away, tear it apart, question it, and find what's right for you. We're just here this evening just to share the best of our knowledge, and hopefully it'll help you find your truth. You got a friend in the background, Lewis, your cat's just joining us.
That's it. I think the beauty about these discussions is that we can provoke changes within thought processes within everyone, and and whether that might. If what I will do is invite that if anybody does feel triggered at all by anything that we've said, then that's a great opportunity for you to have a look at what that might be inside of you. What are the feelings that's triggering inside of you? Whether you believe it or not, okay, that doesn't if it doesn't resonate with you, then that's totally fine. I always say this as well when it comes to when you're having readings from people or whatever, take whatever it is that resonates. If it doesn't resonate, don't take it. That's the best way to learn. And so whether or not everything resonates with you or it doesn't right now, where you're at right now in this, place in your reality where you are right now, and it doesn't resonate, then that's totally okay as well. Whatever does resonate, take that with you. use that for your own growth, and then later down the line, if something resonates more, take that on. You know, that's how we've learned. We've all learned through the resonance of truth. That's why we've experienced our truth, is because we're sharing things like, oh, that resonates with us. Now we're having this discussion. Now we're all resonating on the same level. So for us, that's our truth. So it might not be the truth for certain people. It might not be the truth for you right now, and that's okay.
I think that's a little bit that thing of what we say, taking things as gospel. You know, that's all. There's no need to do that. There's nobody dictating. You shouldn't let anybody dictate to you what you should believe and think. And I think, sorry, Stephen, I think Lewis made a very good point there, is if it is triggering something in you. I've had that experience where somebody's passed knowledge on to me, and just for a moment I might have gone, I don't understand that, and that word trigger, it has sort of triggered me. But then within a couple of weeks I've gone, yeah, I get it. So if something is true, it will land. Don't push too hard on yourself to accept something that don't feel right.
Yeah, that's true. It's glad that you've brought that up, because a lot of people around, you know, in this particular time that we're in, are truth seeking, and some people are open to whatever anybody is telling you. So there's so much fake news and misinformation out there, and also people who are working as healers and as, you know, and as psychics, who might get things wrong, you know. And what we don't want is to like put any information on anybody that doesn't feel right to them, and then to cause problems within them. We're not trying to do that. What we're trying to do is to create you to think about what it is that we've been talking about, and then if there's something that resonates, then take that on. But yeah, so I always encourage, please nobody take anything on as gospel, like you say, if it doesn't feel right for you, because if it doesn't feel right for you, then it might not be something that's helpful for you either at this time.
I mean, I just want to mention there, Chris, as well, which there's been I mean, I don't know if you've ever faced that, Lewis, where there's sometimes when people see, you know, as working as a shaman, as a healer, as a medium, psychic, people they don't see the hard work, and I call it work. They've not seen the work that you've been through. They've seen, oh wow, they're a healer, they're a medium. We've gone through, you know, I could openly talk about my childhood being very traumatic and very, very hard. But people, I don't talk about it often, but people have this perception that, you know, that wow, you're a healer, you're a medium, and they've not seen the hard work. We've been to the depths of despair. We've been there. We've been to the darkness.
Yeah, we have to to be able to understand it. It was, you know, the path that we were on is to lead us to what we're doing. It's challenging. My path too. We spoke about this before in talks, and how challenging it is, you know, facing darkness and all kinds of different sorcery and wizardry and things like that you have to be able to understand on a deep level to do this, to do the role that we're doing. So you're right.
And when we still, I mean, just because where we are, we will have to climb another mountain, and there'll be more challenges. There's going to be hard times ahead, but, you know, just because the work we do doesn't make our lives any easier, it would be even tougher.
Harder.
Harder.
Absolutely. So are we okay to move on? We've got another question here. Quite a big question. Do you want to read this one, Stephen?
My dad died dramatically within 6 months of being diagnosed with motor neuron disease. We were with him when he passed away. How can we get rid of this trauma we hold on to? I think, Melanie, you're probably talking about grief there. And I think my own experience, probably Lewis and Chris will answer with their own experience. I think by forgiving, by letting go, and for me personally, time is a good healer. Give it time. That grief, that pain, that sadness will eventually pass. What you don't want to do is hold on to that trauma and hold on to that pain, because that will then manifest into disease, that will manifest into illness and hurt, and that will just manifest within you. So really, time's the biggest healer. Learn to let go, learn to surrender, and accept that your dad is probably very happy, very peaceful in the spirit world and very content. And he's probably looking down and saying, you've got to move on. I am happy. So it's, you know, they've gone back home to our true home, which is the spirit world or the astral plane. So that's just my thought there. So I don't know if Lewis wants to add any more to that.
Yeah, and another thing that can be helpful as well to help with grief is that when we hold on to grief, we are actually holding on to a piece of them as well. And it actually prevents them from being able to fully transition as well. So like sometimes when we're holding on to the grief, then we're actually holding on to a piece of them as well. And it's actually really helpful for them, for us to be able to release that. In the Hindu tradition, people, when there's somebody that's died, they go through like a period of like 12 months where they go through like a grieving process, and they're not allowed to have any kind of celebration or anything like for 12 months, because they believe that it takes 12 months to like fully grieve and fully let go.
Wow.
Really interesting. So like what I would say, and then after that, then they celebrate, and then it's got, you know, the grief's gone, but they're allowed to go through that grieving process. So what I'd say is give yourself that time to grieve and to let go, but also remember that every time you're letting go, you're allowing the spirit of your father to also to be at peace as well.
That's so true, that Lewis. Very, very, very true.
I think that's such a relevant point, and a few times I've picked up during readings or connecting with people that healing process is almost going in tandem with the loved one in the spirit world and the one who's here on the earth plane still, that they're healing sort of together at the same process. Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Absolutely. Okay, so our next question is from Shah, and she's asking, I know we should love unconditionally and we're all here to learn lessons and grow, but I find it hard to unconditionally love people who hurt children and animals. What lessons can they learn from hurting the innocent? So do you want to take this one first, Lewis?
Yeah. So firstly, I'd just like to say that the lessons that they learn from hurting innocent children are not being learned. That's what I would say, is that if they are doing that, then they are choosing not to learn the lessons. So we live in a world where we have a choice. Okay, so they have a choice whether to do that or not, and they are choosing to do that. Now, the unconditional love can just be compassion for that spirit of that person that's doing that, that's in endless suffering themselves. So you don't have to unconditionally love that person, but you could be compassionate towards them and think, you know, these people are, if somebody is doing that, then that person is deeply suffering themselves. That person, so we don't have to condone it, we don't have to love them, but we can just be compassionate for their spirit. Like, this spirit is going to have to go round and round and round and round until it gets this lesson. And these lessons are going to come, you know, whatever it is that they're doing there is going to come back to them tenfold. And then the chances are, if they're that stuck in it, then they're probably going to repeat the same things over again. So it's, as much as we want to like throttle people like that, and we want to say, stop what you're doing, can you see what you're doing?
Yeah.
It's not our path to do that. It's not our, it's that everybody has their own individual journey and their soul's growth. And if that's what they're choosing to do time after time, then you know, that's down to them. We can't be expected to unconditionally love these people, but we can also be compassionate when we see that their spirit is suffering.
Yeah, absolutely. I think absolutely with that, and I think that a good way that it was sort of taught to me many years ago is if you are sending those feelings of anger or hate, that you are only going to feed that sort of darkness or whatever you want to see within them. So you're going to sort of make the situation worse. So sometimes I always think if you can't think something good about it, it's best to leave it almost. That's not ignoring, but it is important to send you love, because just like Lewis said, they're in their own torture in a way. Yeah.
I mean, I just want to add there as well, it's on another perspective. we live in a society where, I mean, capital punishment, for example, still rife in lots of countries.
I was going to say something about
which
that.
I'm personally very, very against, because I think as the society, when we talk about karma, it's not up to us to punish anybody. We're in a society, people aren't questioning why is the prisons getting fuller? Why are there more mental health issues? Because for me, there is an absence of love in the world. And I think when there's an absence of love, that fear continues to grow, and people use anger and hurt and fear. And when we talk about these people that hurt children, and for us who sort of radiate that unconditional love as much as we can't understand why people would do that. But for them, they are distorted in their own trauma and pain. They need the help. These are the people that need the help. They're the people that need assistance and guiding and helping. We can't just block them away. We need to help them, and we need to change society's outlook on people that do crimes and hurt animals and hurt children. They're the people that need to help, the guidance. We can't just lock them away and forget about them. We, as a society, we should be questioning, why are these things happening in the world? Because it's collectively all of our responsibility to be more compassionate, be kinder. And anyway, I've gone on a soapbox here. I'm shutting up now.
I want to expand on that a little bit, actually, because when we stigmatize people, or when we shame these people as they are bad people, then it confirms their belief that that's what they are. When it actually that isn't what they are. That's an illusion that that's what they are, that they have identified with, and then that has become who they are, but it's not truly who they are. So what we need to do really as a society is to help these people find out who they truly are, but underneath all of that distortion and all of this. So how we do that, I don't know. Is that our responsibility individually in this reincarnation that we're in right now? I don't know. Possibly, maybe not for me right now, where I'm at in my journey, but possibly in someone's. Maybe if we put it out there, it might be, picked up somewhere along the ether, and someone else can do that job of maybe helping to, support. Well, there definitely needs to be a better rehabilitation systems in our society. Criminals, there's no real good rehabilitation for criminals. Criminals come out, they still believe they're criminals, they're penalized for being criminals, they can't get proper jobs, they're stuck back into the crime system, they're put back in it again because that's what they believe what they are. When a majority of criminals, unless it's like serious criminals, are really good people. When you get down to it, they have good morals. Some of them, are very loving family members, and they have all of the great qualities that most of us have, except that they've been brought up in a society where they believe that they have to be bad or they are bad people. So I think the stigmatizing people, it doesn't help either, or finger pointing definitely doesn't help, or exiling people either doesn't really help. So it's trying to, maybe come up with an idea how we can include these people in our communities in ways that we can encourage them to make better decisions. I don't know. I honestly don't know how that works. It's not something that I've been creating in this present moment. But
that word forgiveness as well, it's always important. So we're going to move up. We're just going to finish with a couple more questions now. Just a couple more, but this one is from Anne-Marie Hepburn, and she's asking, how does reincarnation work with spirits of those we love? So if a loved one is reincarnated, would that mean they're not in spirit anymore? And I'm guessing what you mean by that is, say, for example, will they be there to sort of meet you when you're in the spirit world, when you pass? And if I could start with that, for me personally, my thoughts on it are that always a responsible spirit will wait for all of their loved ones in the spirit world to return, or your family line. That's my understanding of it. So for me, I would say that you wouldn't get, for example, your mum, your dad, somebody reincarnated back while you're still here. I feel they would be there. A responsible spirit would be there for you to make that connection. I don't know anybody else's thought. What's your thoughts, Lewis, on this one?
Well, the thing is that our higher self is always in spirit anyway. So we have higher guidance that's connected to us that is actually us, that's always in spirit anyway. It's interesting this actually, because sometimes parts of spirits can stay stuck in this realm when they're traumatized. They don't always pass on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's quite difficult to answer that question. How does reincarnation work? If a loved one is reincarnated, would that mean they wouldn't be in spirit anymore? Yeah, I'm not too sure about that one actually, but I think Chris answered that one quite well. Okay,
Stephen, do you want to add anything to that?
I mean, not really. I mean, what Lewis was saying, what can happen when we talk about certain spirits being stuck in a way. I don't like using the word stuck. They're in their own. Remember, the mind's very powerful, and I think well, we've sat. We run a rescue circle for a lot of years. Even though I'm being hypocritical here because we're against rescuing. We don't rescue people. We create a space for spirit to come to rescue themselves. For them to be brought into the light. So really, is our thinking on the word rescue. We have to change that. So loved ones, if they've died in very, very traumatic circumstances, if they don't want to move on to that light, they can be stuck. So that can happen. Yes, that does happen.
And it can be as simple as sometimes just showing them where the light is.
Yeah.
Sometimes like, can you see the light? Yeah, I can see the light. Would you like to go there? Yeah, well, go on. And then like that, it can be like, oh, what I can get out of this stuckness. Like, just because they believe that they are stuck, it's like that, just that simple. Like how they can just suddenly go, oh, right, So, yeah, rather than rescuing, we guiding them back.
Yeah, we were in communication with a gentleman in the spirit world. Do you know, I forget his name, Stephen. It might come back to you. And he actually, when he passed to the spirit world, he died in his chair in his front room on his own. And he kind of thought in spirit he was still there. He was still playing that out, being in his front room and sat there. And he said he looked up one day and where there was a picture above his fireplace, he saw this face and it was his guide in this picture. And almost coming in, said, "Come on, you're not in your front room anymore. Come with me." And I always remember that story. So it isn't.
That was my
yeah, and sometimes when we talk about being stuck, that's what it can be. Very small things. I love my home. I love where I used to live, and I still want to be in that. If that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to move on to our final one. Now, this is a big one to end on as well, and it's from Michelle. She's asked some cracking questions tonight, Michelle. Thank you for it. So here we go. Evolution states we evolved from 12 people who migrated. So the first of the 12 to die would have been the first human soul. I think of soul as the divine spirit with the most amount to experience and knowledge. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that spirits have been around a lot longer than this Earth human creation. So, yeah, I wouldn't believe them to have been the first souls.
Throw away your history books, Lewis.
Yeah,
I feel that. It's very sketchy evolution, the history of evolution. Definitely tear it up from so many sources of spirit teachers, spirit workers that we've experienced have given us so many different slants on the truth, the real truth of our history and civilizations we don't know about, and that quite often it's a thing in the spiritual movement when it's a lot of people talk about the birth of spiritualism, and they might talk about respectfully like the Fox sisters, and we think, wow, people have been connecting with spirit long before that, going into the ancients.
Millions
of years. Exactly. Okay, so we thank you very much, Michelle, for your questions tonight, and everybody for the questions. Just coming up to about an hour and a half there, so thanks for everybody for joining us, and it's been really interesting. Some great questions tonight. You've certainly kept us on our toes as well with a few, definitely, and give us all. But that's what it's about, and as everybody asks each other's questions, we're able to all take something away and think on it and come back. So we really like to thank Lewis for joining us. I know you've got a lot on at the minute as well, so really appreciate you giving up this time to be with us.
Pleasure.
And if anybody's interested in Lewis's work with Kambo medicine or a lot of the other work he does, we will post a link so you'll be able to get in touch with him if you're wishing to do that. And we can certainly very much recommend it. So we'd like to thank you, Lewis, once again.
Yes.
Yeah. Stephen?
You just want to mention to everybody about opening the Purple Mountain again?
I will. We are reopening as well the Purple Mountain on Friday the 17th of July. We're only opening on the Fridays at the moment, and due to the situation, we can only sort of allow 12 people. And the way we're going to work it is if you are to message the Purple Mountain page or get in touch with myself, and you can book your place for the evening. And the first evening is Friday, the 17th of July, and that will be a trance evening with Stephen, which should be questions and answers and philosophy. So we're sort of beginning to reopen things once again. So I would just like to thank everybody. Thanks, Stephen. Thank Lewis and everybody who's joined us. And stay true to yourself, everyone. Thank myself as well. And okay. And just stay true to yourself, everyone. Bye-bye.